Society sucks. That's how it goes. Society sucks. It's not a party. It's not a great time. You don't get high fives, right, from everybody as soon as they find out that you're trans. You get rejected. You get isolated. You get abused. You get violated. You get fetishized. You get objectified. You get stalked, harassed. You get isolated. I might have mentioned that already. You might get ostracized. I might have mentioned that already. It's not a good time. It's not a good time. Hello, fellers and dwellers. Welcome to Dwell On It, a series where I, Taylor, answer your questions about my lived experience as a trans woman. If you're new to the channel, I hope you enjoy the content today. What this is pretty much where people like yourself ask me questions by comments or by DMs, and I put them on note cards, throw them in a grab bag, draw them out randomly, and create an episode out of it. So if you'd like to, of course, contribute questions of your own, as I mentioned, comments or DMs, feel free to send them my way, and I'll include them to be answered in a future episode. If you have not subscribed yet, make sure to please do, and also hit the notification icon as well. That's that little bell thing. So wherever that is on your screen, I don't know where it is depending on the platform that you're watching this on. If you see a video shortly after it gets posted, that helps give algorithms a bit of a nudge to show that this is recommended content for other people to see. And so it's really important for you to help me out by helping that engagement and get this message to more people that I currently don't have access to, which is also segueing to a line that I say all the time when it comes to sharing. Please make sure to hit the share button and send this content to people who you directly want to see this. And the reason for that is, well, it's something I say all the time. My reach is only as far as I can reach, and that's where you, the viewer and the listener, help me so much by helping expand the audience to take in this type of content and help learn more about trans individuals, the trans community, and sometimes even if it's not trans-based topics, sometimes it could just be random things. The last episode I was talking about singing. And it helps humanize the conversation, which I think is really important for everybody right now to appreciate. So please make sure to subscribe. Please make sure to hit the notification icon and jump on new videos as soon as they get posted. Please make sure to share this content with people who you want to see this to. And of course, please make sure to hit that like button. The engagement helps the algorithms influence this type of content to get into the eyes, the ears, and the attention of people who are best served to hear it. I'd like to start every video as well with a visual description, and as I mentioned in a few other episodes too, often that's to help people who with visual impairments, and it's also for people who are listening to the episode to help just visualize the episode without actually watching it. And so I'm in my living room, my office, my gym, things that I say regularly enough. Behind me we can see a few pieces of cardio equipment. I've got my elliptical, my recumbent bike, and a treadmill. Air conditioner is on the wall, it's off, and we're finally getting to temperatures where I'm not too upset about it being off, thankfully. And the walls behind me, they're beige, the blinds are closed. It's early in the day, but it's still sunny, so we can see a little bit of sunlight coming through those. I'm pretty relaxed today. Naked face, washed hair, just wavy, swept over the left side of my face. I've got long blonde hair, I should point that out. It's past my armpits, but I've also got my 3 dermal piercings on the right side of my eye, or right side of my face, I should say, underneath my right eye, and a small, medium, large fashion going outwards towards a cluster earring at the top of my right ear. I'm wearing a gray hoodie. This is actually one of my favorite hoodies, and I don't remember ever pointing to previous videos in an introduction, and I don't know if I'm going to be using other links yet, so I might have a video here, who knows. But in a previous episode I spoke about clothing from a past life, and this is definitely a piece of clothing from a past life, and this is one of my favorite hoodies. And so it is a darker gray hoodie. Can't really describe it much more beyond that. It is a dark gray hoodie, period. I talk more about what I'm wearing, but they're gray leggings with a camo design, so you can't see them anyway. I went there, so I'm happy that you're here with me. I think we can get into this episode. Otherwise, just to finish things off, like I said, my name is Taylor. I use she, her pronouns. I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is Treaty 1 territory. I hope you enjoy the content that we put together today, and I'm excited for you to add questions of your own so that I can answer them in a future episode. So let's see what we've got this week. How would you describe the trans community in 3 words? Diversity within diversity. Aren't you afraid of any extra abuse by saying you're trans? As soon as I'm passable, I'm dropping that completely. I want to address the latter part first. I feel that people are more than welcome and have all the right to define the acknowledgement, the awareness, the sense. I don't want to use the word reality because it's in the face exactly of what this question is, the actualization and so on. I don't want to use those absolute words, but you know what I mean, where I'm going with that. If people do not want to share or disclose the fact that they are a trans individual, they have all the right to do that. And that is primarily because of safety. There are often times, and I've experienced it myself, where an interaction, however it may go and about whatever it may be, is going perfectly fine until all of a sudden adding the reality of a trans individual being part of this flow. Now it gets disrupted because of someone else's bigotry, someone else's hate, someone else's abuse and whatnot. So lots of times, many trans individuals strive to approach something that, and this is a word that I'm not a fan of, going to declare that point blank. I do not like the words passable, because that is creating this, it's giving this impression of an expectation. It's a compliance to a social expectation. It's a compliance to a social norm. It's a compliance to getting put into boxes, I think is how I'm trying to frame it. That said, the word's also used oftentimes in the sense of feeling like they don't have to be in the face of hate, abuse, scrutiny, and so on because of society's inability to cope with things that are against social norms. I feel like I'm stuttering over words, but I'm trying to figure how to frame it while respecting the question and the statement, but also saying that there's some language in there that I'm not a fan of. And I think my point is clear, but I understand the spirit of the question of saying that as soon as, like if I was to reframe it, if I was to reframe the question, the latter part of it, it's not my life policy, but the latter part of it would be, as soon as I am not visibly trans, I will not disclose that I am trans. And the reason for that is society sucks. That's how it goes. Society sucks. It's not a party. It's not a great time. You don't get high fives, right, from everybody as soon as they find out that you're trans. You get rejected. You get isolated. You get abused. You get violated. You get fetishized. You get objectified. You get stalked, harassed, you get isolated. I might have mentioned that already. You might get ostracized. I might have mentioned that already. It's not a good time. It's not a good time. So removing that part, right? Removing that identification that other people then create scrutiny upon is certainly a valid principle for other people to want to do. I don't subscribe to that because I'm proud of who I am. I'm not saying that everyone else is wrong. I'm not saying that, but I own it. And I also know one of the only ways to help normalize trans visibility and trans acceptance in society is to be out there. So it's a little in the face of what the principle of this question is, but it's also how people are built. Not everybody has a responsibility to go to war. Not everybody has the spoons, right? Not everybody has the toolbox. Not everybody has the desire. Not everybody has the whatever. Some people are more than happy to just wake up and make it through the day and go to bed. And that's fine. I'm not that type of person. I can't not be who I am in public because I've already spent my entire life before I came out being someone who the public wanted me to be, and I hated myself. I hated every minute of it. So I'm not afraid of any extra abuse. And one of the reasons for that is because when I disclose that I'm trans, that person's reaction is way more important to me, knowing that I'm trans versus not. Especially if they're a person who I would consider to be close or important to me, how they react is critical. Because at some point or another, if it turns out that they find out that I am a trans woman, and I didn't share that with them, that could lead to a massive consequence. One of the biggest challenges when it comes to stuff like dating, and I've talked about this in a previous episode, I'm going to put a link right here. This is an older episode, I'm not going to lie, so fair warning about the quality on that one, but about the responsibility to disclose being trans in dating or in love. And it's nuts. I'm not going to get into it. I really recommend you check that video out. If people are okay in dealing with me in a certain way, but then all of a sudden become not okay as soon as they find out that I'm trans, I'd rather know that right away. And if it means that they're going to be abusive, I'd rather find out earlier that they're abusive, and then I can take matters into my own hands as necessary, as soon as possible, rather than find out later after having trust, comfort, and so on around those individuals to find out that they were harmful. I feel like I really scrambled an answer, and I'm sorry about that. I really hope that my point came across, though. Short answer is no, that I'm not afraid of any extra abuse, because I acknowledge how the world is. I would rather just see the abuse up front than discover it later because of someone else's inability to cope with their emotions. What have you noticed about how people treat you in public? I feel like I was just talking about that not very long ago. You know what? The thing that's funny, and this is kind of tailing on the previous question, if anything, I've actually noticed myself getting treated with a lot more chivalry than before, that's for sure. And those are things that kind of stand out to me. You know, people holding the door open a little more often, and, a lot more compliments. But again, right, in a past life, it was like a hoodie and jeans. But, if I'm out and about, people will ask me questions about myself, asking questions about piercings, or they'll always compliment the nails and whatnot. And granted, those are also features that I wouldn't have had in a past life anyway. So it's not really completely related to being trans, but nonetheless, I haven't had many directly adverse experiences of negativity in public, but otherwise, oftentimes when it comes to being in public, things are really different, and I can't really compare how I'm treated between then and now. So in a past life, if I'm out and about, of course, I would try to, make myself presentable and so on. And, even in a past life, I felt I had a pretty decent hand dealt to me. And, I'd try to, I wouldn't be out and about and be the most boisterous in a crowd, or, looking for attention or anything like that. But, I'd like to say that, it's, there's Brad type of stuff. But I still was really to myself. And frankly, I never really wanted to be anywhere in public as much as I wanted to be social, but I was also trying to be social to have a sense of belonging. So I was really this gray cloud. I'm using gray a lot, whatever. But I was just this gray cloud meandering wherever. If I was out playing sports, or if I was out, shopping, or if I was out singing karaoke or whatever, as much as I was trying to be present wherever I was also so isolated and also wanting to be left alone because of my misery. Now, when I'm out and about, I've got swagger, I've got joy, I'm still very much an introverted type of person. I am not a social person. I don't randomly go up to people and go, "Hi, how are you? Hi, I like what you're wearing," or anything like that. That is not my style. But, I carry myself with a lot more pride, a lot more joy, a lot more radiance, and so on. And I feel that gets reflected by how people see me and treat me in public, right? I'm not dragging my heels wherever I'm going. I'm not constantly angry, but looking happy, and so on. Now, when I'm angry, and you can tell I'm angry. And when I'm happy, and you can tell I'm happy. And I think that is what gets reflected more than anything else in public. When it comes to being trans, getting treated in public is one thing. I've certainly been, I've been accosted, no question, right? I've had people say things to me that crossed lines in public places, and they regretted it. That's on them. But, and those never would have happened to me in a past life, because, who's going to say that to a cishet presenting, a 6'1" white athletic dude? So compare that to, a 6'1" trans woman who's, like I said, decent hand of cards dealt and whatever. And so the things that people think that they could say is different, right? It's fully expected. I want to make sure that's clear, fully expected. And, and I react and respond to it accordingly. And like I said, people have crossed lines, and I made sure to reassert where those lines are, and so on. But I think overall, how people treat me in public is directly related to my mood, right? And before, like I said, I wouldn't even have smiled at myself because I was struggling, right? And it's frustrating saying that, because when people are struggling, they need those smiles. When people are struggling, they need people to get out of their comfort zones, right? And help uplift whoever's having that hard time. People need to show those who are struggling the compassion, the love, the belonging that they wish that they had, right? You know, so many people, they're struggling and they just kind of get left to themselves, as much as they say they want to be kept to themselves, but they truly just want some care, some love, some compassion. Fuck, I'm about to cry thinking about this. But they need people to recognize why they're this dark gray cloud, and to put the work in to help them out, right? And that wasn't happening. And like I said, that even myself, I would have not wanted to talk to myself because I was in that much of a mood. But now, right, like I said, I walk with radiance and joy. I'm much more approachable, much more able to be, you know, communicated with and so on, because I'll at least respond now and so on. And I think that has everything to do with how people treat me in public there. As a transgender woman, what scares you the most? Never really think about fears like that. Lack of access to healthcare is probably it. It comes to mind because of something I was mentioning to a friend the other day, that one of the biggest things that I have comfort and peace with is having access to HRT. I've mentioned before, I know that at some point, so I'm going to point randomly here. I have no idea which episode it's going to be, but it's something regarding HRT, I am sure. But about how a medical transition helps me feel at peace with myself. I can compare it to a past life where makeup is makeup, right? Clothes are clothes, name is a name, and so on. But the comfort of having my body be in alignment with my mind, my sense of self, my happiness, that absolutely is related to being able to have access to HRT and put my body on the path that it has been long wanting, right? And to finally, you know, be at that point in my life. If there was any reason at any point to have that taken away, is probably a fear that I can't even describe. I can't imagine what life would be like if access to healthcare was taken away. And even with that, like, I understand that many people, especially in places where healthcare is either not affordable or not accessible, there's DIY solutions, right? And, you know, purchasing meds online and this and that. And I don't want to, you know, fall down that rabbit hole, but I know that there are people who do that. And that's really sad that they are in that type of position, because trans healthcare is healthcare, and that has a responsibility to be a universal standard, because, you know, trans individuals have a right to the body that they're at peace with. So to have the lack of access to healthcare is probably up there when it comes to the biggest fear of mine. Everything else is just kind of a fact of life, really. You know, people can ask me if I'm afraid of getting assaulted or abused or accosted and whatnot. I'm conscious that society is society, right? I still have to put my shoes on and go to the store, right? But I can absolutely be afraid of my body not being the body that I have a right to. And if that ever got taken away from me, that certainly would be one of my biggest fears. What risks about transitioning are completely worth it? Transitioning is completely worth it. That's all I can say. I'm going to put a link here, I think. I don't remember if this was a chapter that I spoke about or not, but I know I've mentioned it at some point, whether it's, you know, on Dwell On It or to friends of mine or whatever. Transitioning is often coming from a place of desperation, right? Because of trying to cope with living in a society and living in all the boxes that you're getting pushed into, and trying to cope with it long enough to hopefully be like, I can do it. But inside, your body is tearing itself apart, right? Your mind, it's tearing itself apart because you're not allowed to be yourself. You're not allowed to be authentic. You're not allowed to be you. What's the joy in that? What's life? What's the purpose of life when you're not allowed to have joy, right? What's the purpose of life if you're not allowed to be you, right? Read between the lines of what I'm saying. So transitioning is completely worth it, because if you're at a point of desperation, And you think about what's left. What are the other options? Right? Fortunately, HRT medication, usually the side effects are pretty status quo, right? That you'd find on every pill bottle anyway, so whatever. But if it's like, 75% chance of heart failure, 98% chance of kidney failure, right? 120% chance of liver failure, I still would have said, fine, bring it. Because then at least for a blip of my life, I would have at least been able to be me and be happy. Right? Instead of not having any part of my life where I can be me and be happy. The social isolation, the social ostracization, the social changes. I know I spoke about that before, so I'm going to put that up there too, right? The things that come with transitioning, especially socially and, the world around you. The loss, right? And however it goes. And I've touched on it earlier in this episode, so I don't need to repeat it. But check that link out like I was just mentioning. It seems scary up front. But the reality is that if those people aren't willing to stay with you, what are you holding on to? Because if they're not holding on to you, why are you holding on to them? Right? Even that, it's worth it. It's scary. It's scary feeling like you're going to do it all by yourself. But I guess one of the things that I look at is if you're not really yourself in the first place, what are you comparing against? Right? When you think about it, just kind of think of things objectively. You're part of a social network, right? Your family, you got a workplace and this and that, and you feel like you're going to lose everyone, quote unquote, but everyone doesn't actually even have you. So as soon as you realize that and know that you're not even giving the people around you the best version of yourself, you're not really losing anything because you're not even giving them everything that they have a right to too. And what I mean is it's not your responsibility to appease everyone else's needs. But what I'm saying is that you're comparing losing something, but only based on what you're sharing. And so if they don't accept you after you share them your honesty and your authenticity, it's not your loss. It's their loss for not being able to cope. It's their loss for not being able to be understanding, supportive, loving, friendly, even though months or years prior they had no problem treating you like one of their besties or, one of their most excellent coworkers or one of your, favorite family members or whatever. That's on them to hold on to you just as much as you are holding on to them. And if they choose to let go, that's their loss, not your loss. I can go on, but ultimately the risks of transitioning, from my point of view, bring it. Doesn't matter what the risk is because it's worth it, because at least being able to be yourself, be happy, be authentic. I can't think of many things that are worth more than that, to be honest. So let's wrap up on that note. This got sad. I don't want it to be sad. I was hoping that this is educational. It certainly kind of got me in the feels right there for that little series of questions, but nonetheless, I hope that the point that I was trying to come across does make sense. And if you enjoyed the content, please make sure to hit that like button or wherever it is. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button to wherever that is on either of those screens, so make sure to hit the like, hit subscribe, make sure to hit that notification bell, and please make sure to share this content as well. Yes, I'm speaking a lot and I'm trying to move hair out of my face at the same time. I don't feel like editing that part out. So I really hope you enjoyed this content. Thank you again for coming along for the ride with me with this one. In the description is a link to a campaign hosted by New Mode, and what that is a call to action to incentivize political leaders to optimize the corporate social responsibility of the businesses, organizations, and companies in their neighborhoods. And what I mean by that is when you fill out the form, it's automatically created as a letter. All you need to do is enter your name, your email address, your postal code, hit send. It goes to the elected officials in the area related to that postal code, and that's in the city, the province, and the federal government as well, including the mayors of Winnipeg and Toronto, so make sure to do that. But nonetheless, it's incentivizing businesses to be more socially conscious and socially responsible for the 2S LGBTQIA plus communities that they are part of, or that they work around, I guess is kind of a better way to put it. 14 seconds is what it takes me to fill out the form, especially if you've got something saved in your browser. So please make sure to jump in there, do that, and share that. as well. Otherwise, let's wrap this one up. I hope you enjoyed this. And again, sorry, this one had a little bit of the feels. Make sure to take a look at previous episodes. You see a lot more joyfulness and jubilance if you want to see some smiles there too. So I hope you have a great rest of your night. Otherwise, have a great rest of your week, as I always love to say too.